What is this?
The USB stick arrived on a Tuesday morning, tucked between bills and grocery store flyers. No return address, no explanation, just Marla Dunmore's name written in block letters across the label. She almost threw it away. Instead, she plugged it into her laptop while her coffee cooled. The screen filled with a single video file. For my_loving_wife.mp4. Her husband Elias appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like their basement. His usually kind eyes held something she'd never seen before, something cold. "Hello, Marla," Elias said to the camera. "By the time you watch this, you'll understand what happens when you steal a man's life." Marla's hand trembled as she reached for the mouse. She'd been married to this man for 18 years. She knew every expression, every gesture, but the person on screen was a stranger. "You think you're clever," Elias continued, "sneaking around with Beck Halloran, making me look like a fool in front of our daughter. Well, I have something to show you." The camera panned across a wall covered in photographs. Marla's throat closed. Pictures of her entering Beck's auto glass shop, images of them kissing in his office, screenshots of text messages she thought were private. "I've been watching for 6 months," Elias said. "Learning, planning. You wanted to destroy our family? Let me show you what real destruction looks like." Marla slammed the laptop shut, her heart hammering against her ribs. She grabbed her phone and dialed Beck's number. It went straight to voicemail. 3 hours earlier, Detective Fiona Ellison had been standing in the charred remains of Halloran Auto Glass, watching the fire marshal take photographs. The building was gutted. 26 years of business reduced to ash and twisted metal. "Electrical fire," the marshal told her. "Started in the office around 2 a.m. Sprinkler system failed. Security cameras were down for maintenance." Ellison nodded, but something felt wrong. She'd seen plenty of electrical fires. They didn't burn this clean, this controlled. "Where's the owner?" she asked. "Beck Halloran. Nobody's seen him since yesterday afternoon." Ellison pulled out her notebook. She'd been tracking a string of break-ins across town for 3 months. All businesses, all cleaned out with surgical precision. No prints, no witnesses, no leads. But every single victim had one thing in common. They'd all hired Dunmore Mobile Locksmith in the past year. 2 days before the fire, Elias Dunmore had been sitting in his van outside Talia's high school, waiting for her to finish soccer practice. His phone buzzed with a text from his wife. "Working late again, don't wait up." He'd received the same message every Tuesday and Thursday for 4 months, always at exactly 4:17 p.m., always the same words. Elias pulled up his tracking app. Marla's phone showed her location as their insurance office downtown, but the blue dot wasn't moving. It hadn't moved in 3 hours. He started the engine and drove to Beck's shop. Marla's silver Honda was parked behind the building, hidden from street view. Elias sat in his van for 20 minutes watching the upstairs office window. He could see shadows moving against the blinds. His phone buzzed again. Another text from Marla. "Grab dinner with Susan, home by 10. Susan was Marla's sister. She lived in Cleveland. Elias had been a locksmith for 15 years. He understood security systems, access points, blind spots. He understood how people thought they were safe when they weren't. He also understood that his marriage was over. The question was what to do about it. That night, Elias sat at his kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. Talia was upstairs doing homework. Marla was in the shower, humming some song he didn't recognize. "Dad?" Talia appeared in the doorway, backpack slung over her shoulder. "Can you drive me to school tomorrow?" "Mom said she has an early meeting." "Sure, honey." Talia hesitated. "Are you okay? You look weird." Elias managed to smile. "Just tired. Go finish your homework." After she left, Elias opened his laptop and created a new folder. He titled it Project Cleanup and began typing. Step 1, gather evidence. Step 2, identify all parties involved. Step 3, document financial assets. Step 4, plan extraction points. He'd learned these steps from Roddy Lasker, his mentor in the locksmith trade. Roddy was 73 years old and had worked every scam in the book before going legitimate. Sort of. "You want to catch someone cheating," Roddy had told him years ago. "Don't follow them around like some amateur. Get ahead of them. Control the environment." Elias had thought it was just old man talk. Now he understood what Roddy meant. Control the environment. The next morning, Elias dropped Talia at school and drove to Beck's shop. The morning shift wouldn't start for another hour. He parked across the street and watched. At 7:45 a.m., Beck's red pickup pulled into the lot. Elias noted the license plate, the make and model, the small dent in the rear bumper. Details mattered. At 8 a.m., the first employee arrived, then another. By 8:30, the shop was fully operational. Elias drove to the county courthouse and spent 2 hours in the records office. Beck Halloran owned 3 properties: the shop, a house on Pine Street, and a rental duplex on the south side. He had 2 business partners, Shane Beckett and Maria Santos. His credit rating was good, but not great. He'd been divorced twice. By noon, Elias had a complete financial profile. Beck was leveraged to the eyeballs. One serious problem and the whole house of cards would collapse. That afternoon, Elias got a service call from Pine Street. New locks on a rental property. The landlord was out of town, wanted everything changed before the new tenant moved in. The house was 3 blocks from Beck's place. Elias finished the job in 40 minutes, but he took his time packing up. The neighborhood was quiet, middle-class suburban, houses set back from the road with decent yards. Beck's house was a split-level ranch with a 2-car garage. The security system was basic, ADT with motion sensors on the first floor, no cameras that Elias could see. As he loaded his tools, Beck's pickup turned into the driveway. Elias watched in his side mirror as Beck got out, walked to the mailbox, then headed for the front door. Beck looked exactly like what he was, a middle-aged man trying too hard to stay young. Expensive jeans, designer sneakers, hair that was probably dyed. The kind of guy who called everyone buddy and thought charm could fix any problem. That evening, Marla came home with takeout Chinese food and a story about traffic on the interstate. "Sorry I'm late," Marla said, unpacking containers. "Construction everywhere." Talia looked up from her phone. "Mom, Emma's mom saw you at the mall today. She said you looked like you were shopping for lingerie." Marla's face flushed. "Emma's mom needs glasses. I was buying office supplies. At Victoria's Secret." "Talia, that's enough." Elias said nothing. He ate his lo mein and watched his wife lie to their daughter's face. After dinner, Marla went upstairs to take a bath. Elias helped Talia with her algebra homework, then sat in his basement workshop thinking. His phone rang at 9:30 p.m. Unknown number. "Elias Dunmore?" "Speaking. This is Roddy Lasker. Got a minute?" Elias hadn't heard from his old mentor in 2 years. "Roddy, hey, what's going on? Heard through the grapevine you might need some advice. The kind we don't discuss over the phone." Elias felt a chill. "I don't know what you mean." "Course you don't. Listen, I'm at Murphy's Tavern. Buy me a beer and we'll talk about old times." The line went dead. Murphy's Tavern was the kind of place where nobody asked questions and everybody minded their own business. Elias found Roddy in a corner booth, nursing a whiskey. "Sit down, boy." Roddy's voice was gravelly from 50 years of cigarettes. "You look like hell. Thanks for the pep talk. Someone's been asking around about you. Professional questions. How good are you with security systems? Whether you ever worked the gray areas?" Elias felt his stomach drop. "Who's asking?" "Lady Detective. Ellison, I think. She's connecting dots that maybe shouldn't be connected." "I haven't done anything illegal." Roddy laughed, a sound like gravel in a blender. "Boy, I taught you everything you know about this trade. Don't lie to me." Elias stared into his beer. "My wife is cheating on me." "I figured. Question is, what are you going to do about it?" "I don't know." "Well, you better figure it out fast. Because if that detective keeps digging, she's going to find whatever you've been up to. And if she finds it, she's going to arrest you." Roddy leaned forward. "You want my advice? Cut your losses. Take the girl and disappear. Start over somewhere else." "I can't do that." "Why not?" Elias thought about Beck's smug face, about Marla's lies, about Talia growing up thinking her father was a failure. "Because they need to pay." Roddy studied him for a long moment. "That's not the smart play, son." "I'm not feeling smart right now." "All right. But if we're going to do this, we do it right. No half measures, no loose ends." "We? You think I'm going to let my best student get arrested for amateur hour bullshit? Besides, I'm 73 years old. What are they going to do, give me life?" 2 weeks later, Elias got another service call from Pine Street. Same house, different problem. The new tenant was locked out. Elias arrived to find a young woman sitting on the front steps, looking frustrated. "Thank God," she said. "I've been here for 2 hours. The landlord said he'd leave a key, but I can't find it anywhere. Let me check with the owner." Elias called the landlord's number. No answer. He tried again. Voicemail. "Look," the woman said, "I have the lease agreement right here, and my driver's license. I'm supposed to move in today." She showed him the paperwork. Everything looked legitimate. All right, Elias said, but I need to see some ID first. Her name was Jennifer Walsh. Address matched the lease. Everything checked out. Elias picked the lock in 30 seconds. There you go. How much do I owe you? $50. Jennifer handed him 320s. Keep the change. You're a lifesaver. As Elias packed his tools, he noticed Beck's house across the street. The pickup wasn't in the driveway, but there was a silver Honda parked on the street, Marla's Honda. Elias drove around the block and parked where he could see the house. At 3:45 p.m., Marla came out Beck's front door, looked both ways, then hurried to her car. She was straightening her blouse. That evening, Talia cornered Elias in the garage. Dad, can I ask you something? Sure, honey. Are you and Mom getting divorced? The question hit him like a punch. Why would you ask that? Because she's acting weird, and you barely talk to each other anymore. And yesterday I heard her on the phone saying something about lawyers. Elias set down his wrench. What exactly did you hear? She was in the laundry room. She thought I was at school, but I came home early because of the assembly. She was talking to someone about asset protection. What does that mean? Asset protection. Marla was already planning for the divorce. Probably had been for months. Dad? It means she's trying to make sure she gets everything when we split up. Talia's face crumpled. So you are getting divorced? I don't know, honey. Maybe. Is it because of Beck? Elias felt the world tilt. What do you know about Beck? I'm not stupid, Dad. Mom's been different for months. Always on her phone, always making excuses to go out. And last week I saw her at his shop when she was supposed to be at work. Why didn't you tell me? Because I hoped I was wrong. Talia started crying. I hoped she was just going through some weird phase or something, but she's not, is she? She's cheating on you. Elias pulled his daughter into a hug. It's not your fault, Talia. None of this is your fault. What are we going to do? I don't know yet, but I promise you, everything's going to be okay. It was a lie, but it was the kind of lie fathers tell their children to keep them from falling apart. The next morning, Elias called in sick and drove to the library. He spent 4 hours researching Pennsylvania divorce law, community property statutes, and custody arrangements. The news was worse than he'd expected. Marla worked for a major insurance company. She had a steady income, health benefits, and a 401k. Elias was self-employed with irregular income and no retirement savings. In a contested divorce, she'd get the house, half his business assets, and probably primary custody of Talia. He'd be lucky to get weekend visitation, unless he could prove adultery. Pennsylvania was one of the few states that still considered infidelity in divorce proceedings. If Elias could document the affair, it would strengthen his position considerably. The problem was proving it. Elias drove to an electronics store and bought a small digital camera with a telephoto lens. He also purchased a GPS tracking device and a voice recorder. That afternoon, he installed the GPS unit under Marla's car. It took him less than 5 minutes. For the next week, Elias tracked his wife's movements obsessively. She went to work at 8 a.m. and left at 5:30 p.m. But twice a week she made detours, always to Beck's shop, always for exactly 90 minutes. On Thursday, Elias parked across from the shop and waited. At 6:15 p.m., Marla's Honda pulled into the lot. She went in through the back entrance. Elias took pictures of her entering the building. More pictures of her coming out 2 hours later, hair mussed and lipstick gone. It was evidence, but it wasn't enough. He needed something definitive. That weekend, Marla announced she was going to a work conference in Harrisburg. How long? Elias asked. 2 days. I'll be back Sunday night. What's the conference about? Insurance fraud prevention. Pretty boring stuff. Elias nodded and went back to his newspaper. But after Marla left, he checked her company's website. There was no conference in Harrisburg that weekend. Saturday morning, Elias drove to Beck's house. The red pickup was in the driveway along with Marla's Honda. Elias parked down the street and called Roddy. I need your help with something. What kind of help? The kind that requires your special skills. I'll be right over. Roddy arrived 20 minutes later in a beat-up Chevy van. What's the situation? Elias explained about the house, the affair, and his need for evidence. You want me to bug the place? Can you do it without breaking in? Son, I've been doing this since before you were born. Question is, are you sure you want to hear what they're saying? Elias thought about Talia's tears, about 18 years of marriage reduced to sneaking around and lies. I'm sure. Roddy opened his toolbox and pulled out a small device that looked like a hearing aid. Laser microphone, points at any window, picks up vibrations from the glass. Range of about 200 yards. Is it legal? Nope. Will it hold up in court? Also nope, but it'll tell you what you need to know. They drove to the end of Beck's street and parked behind a cluster of trees. Roddy set up the equipment while Elias watched the house through binoculars. Got it, Roddy said, adjusting dials. They're in the living room. He handed Elias a pair of headphones. The sound was crystal clear. Beck's voice. Told you she doesn't suspect anything. Marla's voice. How can you be sure? He's been acting strange lately. Strange how? Quiet, watching me. Yesterday I caught him going through my purse. Maybe he found something. Like what? I don't know. Credit card receipts? Phone records? I'm careful about that stuff. Are you? Because if he lawyers up, we're both screwed. There was a pause. Then Marla spoke again. Beck, what if we just told him? Got it out in the open? Beck laughed. Tell him what? That you've been sleeping with me for 6 months? That you're planning to take him for everything he's worth? I never said that. You didn't have to. Come on, Marla. We both know this was never about love. You want out of your marriage, and I want someone to help me expand the business. What do you mean? Your husband's got contacts all over the county, business owners who trust him. If we play this right, we can use those relationships. Use them how? Insurance scams, stage break-ins. Your company processes the claims, I provide the services. We split the profits. Elias felt sick. This wasn't just about an affair. They were planning to destroy his reputation and steal his business contacts. Marla's voice again. I don't know about that, Beck. It sounds risky. Everything's risky. Question is, do you want to stay married to a loser who drives around fixing locks, or do you want to be with someone who thinks bigger? Elias isn't a loser. Isn't he? When's the last time he surprised you? Took you somewhere nice? Bought you something that didn't come from Walmart? That's not fair. Fair has nothing to do with it. You're 42 years old, Marla. How much longer are you going to waste on a man who can't even afford to take you to a decent restaurant? There was another long pause. When Marla spoke again, her voice was different, harder. What do you need me to do? Elias pulled off the headphones and walked back to his van. He sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. You okay? Roddy asked, getting into the passenger seat. They're planning to frame me for insurance fraud. Well, that's a problem. It gets worse. She's been feeding him information about my clients, names, addresses, security systems. Son of a bitch. Elias started the engine. I need to think. What you need to do is go to the police. With what? Illegally obtained recordings? Better than letting them destroy you. No, there has to be another way. Elias, listen to me. These people are dangerous. They're not going to stop with divorce proceedings. They're going to try to put you in prison. Elias drove in silence for several minutes. Finally, he spoke. You still have contacts in the business? What kind of contacts? The kind who specialize in making problems disappear? Roddy was quiet for a long moment. That's not a road you want to go down, son? Maybe not, but it might be the only road I have left. That night, Elias lay in bed next to his wife, listening to her breathe. She was sleeping peacefully, probably dreaming about her new life with Beck. Elias stared at the ceiling and planned. Step 1 was already complete. He had evidence of the affair and the insurance fraud scheme. Step 2, identify all parties involved. Beck, obviously. Marla, but who else? Beck had mentioned business partners. Someone at Marla's insurance company had to be involved. Step 3, document financial assets. This would be the tricky part. Elias needed to know exactly what Beck owned, what he owed, and where he kept his money. Step 4, plan extraction points. In other words, figure out how to hit them where it would hurt the most. The next morning, Marla came downstairs with her suitcase, claiming she needed to extend her stay in Harrisburg for another day. Work emergency, she said, not meeting his eyes. I'll be back Monday. Okay, Elias said. Drive safe. After she left, Elias called Talia's school and told them she was sick. Then he sat his daughter down at the kitchen table. We need to talk. About what? About your mother, and about some decisions we're going to have to make. Talia's face went pale. She's really leaving, isn't she? Worse than that, honey. She's been planning to steal from me. From us. Elias explained everything he'd learned. The affair, the insurance fraud, the plan to destroy his business. I don't believe it, Talia said when he finished. I have recordings. Then why don't you go to the police? Because the recordings were made illegally. They can't be used in court. So, what are you going to do? Elias took his daughter's hands. I'm going to fight back, but I need to know you're with me. What does that mean? It means things are going to get ugly. Your mother is going to try to turn you against me. She's going to lie and manipulate and do whatever it takes to win. She already tried. Last week, she told me you were having money problems because you spent too much on tools. She said we might have to sell the house. That's not true. Our finances are fine. I know. I checked our bank statements. Elias blinked. You what? I'm not stupid, Dad. I wanted to know what was really going on. So I looked at our accounts online. We have plenty of money, but Mom's been moving funds around. Small amounts, but it adds up. How small? 200 here, 500 there. Always from the business account to her personal savings. Talia, that's... Elias stopped. His 16-year-old daughter had just uncovered evidence of embezzlement. How did you figure out her passwords? She uses the same password for everything. Our anniversary date plus my birthday? Elias felt a surge of pride mixed with sadness. His daughter was smarter than both of her parents combined. There's something else, Talia said. Mom's been getting mail from a law firm. She hides it, but I saw the return address. Brennan and Associates. They specialize in divorce cases. How do you know that? I Googled them. Of course she did. Dad, what are we going to do? Elias looked at his daughter, really looked at her. She had his eyes, but Marla's stubborn chin. She was smart, resourceful, and she deserved better than this. We're going to protect ourselves, he said, and we're going to make sure the truth comes out. How? Leave that to me, honey. But I need you to keep acting normal around your mother. Can you do that? I think so. Good. And Talia, no matter what happens, remember that I love you. Everything I do from now on is to protect you. I love you too, Dad. That afternoon, Elias drove to the courthouse and filed for divorce. He also requested an emergency hearing to freeze all joint assets pending the outcome of the case. Then he drove to the police station and asked to speak with Detective Ellison. Mr. Dunmore, she said, settling into her chair, what can I do for you? I understand you've been asking questions about my business. Should I have been? That depends. Are you investigating a crime or are you fishing? Ellison smiled. Little bit of both, maybe. We've had a string of burglaries lately, all businesses that used your services. Correlation isn't causation, Detective. No, but it's suspicious. You want to tell me where you were last Tuesday night between midnight and 3 a.m.? Home with my family. Can anyone verify that? My wife and daughter. I'll need to speak with them. Be my guest. But while you're running down false leads, you might want to look into Beck Halloran and his insurance connections. Ellison's expression sharpened. What about them? Let's just say some people have been planning to make your burglary problem a lot worse. Are you trying to report a crime, Mr. Dunmore? I'm trying to point you in the right direction before innocent people get hurt. Elias left the police station and drove to Beck's auto glass shop. It was after hours, but there were still lights on in the office. He parked across the street and waited. At 7:30 p.m., Beck came out with a woman Elias didn't recognize. She was young, blonde, and dressed like she was going to a nightclub, not Marla. Elias followed them to a restaurant downtown, upscale place with valet parking. Beck played the big shot, tipping the valet $20 and putting his hand on the woman's back as they walked inside. Elias sat in his van for 2 hours taking pictures and thinking. Beck was cheating on the woman he was cheating with. The man had no loyalty to anyone. That was information Elias could use. The next day, Elias got a call from his lawyer. We have a problem, the lawyer said. Your wife filed a restraining order against you. On what grounds? She claims you've been stalking her, following her to work, going through her personal belongings, making threatening phone calls. That's ridiculous. Is it? Have you been following her? Elias hesitated. I hired a private investigator to document her activities. Jesus, Elias, you can't do that without court approval. She's stealing from our business accounts. Then we should have gone through proper channels. Now she's painted you as the bad guy, and the judge is going to be sympathetic to her claims. What does the restraining order say? You can't go within 100 yards of her workplace. You can't contact her except through lawyers. And you have to move out of the family home within 48 hours. Elias felt the walls closing in. Can we fight it? We can try, but it's going to be an uphill battle. That evening, Elias packed his belongings while Talia helped. Marla was conveniently absent, probably celebrating with Beck. Where are you going to stay? Talia asked. I found a motel across town. It's temporary. This is so unfair. Life isn't fair, honey, but that doesn't mean you stop fighting. Can I visit you? Every day if you want. The restraining order doesn't affect our relationship. Talia hugged him tight. I hate her. Don't say that. She's still your mother. She's a liar and a thief. Elias couldn't argue with that assessment. The Sleepy Inn was exactly what it sounded like. A two-star motel on the wrong side of town. Elias's room had a saggy bed, a broken air conditioner, and a view of the dumpster. But it had something else. Privacy. That night, Elias called Roddy. I need those contacts you mentioned. You sure about this? They destroyed my life, Roddy. Took my house, my daughter, my reputation. I'm not walking away. All right, but once we cross this line, there's no going back. I crossed the line the day I found out what they were planning. Roddy was quiet for a moment. There's a guy I know, goes by Eddie the electrician. He specializes in making things look like accidents. What kind of accidents? Electrical fires, mostly. Insurance companies hate them because they're almost impossible to prove. Perfect way to destroy a business without raising suspicions. How much? For something like this? 10,000? Cash? Elias thought about his savings account. He had $12,000 set aside for emergencies. This qualified. Set up a meeting. Eddie the electrician turned out to be a thin, nervous man in his 50s who chain-smoked Marlboro Lights and talked in whispers. Roddy says you need a building cleaned up, Eddie said, stirring sugar into his coffee. Something like that. What kind of building? Auto glass shop? Single-story, brick construction, minimal security? Sprinkler system? Basic setup, nothing fancy. Eddie nodded. When do you need it done? Soon, but it has to look natural. They always look natural. That's the point. How soon? Give me 3 days to scope the location. Payment up front, half now and half after. Elias slid an envelope across the table. 5,000. You get the rest when the job's done. Fair enough. Eddie pocketed the money. One more thing. If this goes sideways, we never met. Understood. 3 days later, Elias was lying in his motel bed when his phone rang. Unknown number. It's done, Eddie's voice said. Check the news. Elias turned on the television. The local news was showing aerial footage of a building fire. He recognized the location immediately. Halloran Auto Glass was gone. The reporter was saying something about electrical problems and failed safety systems. The fire department was still investigating, but preliminary reports suggested it was an accident. Beck's entire business had been reduced to ash and rubble in 4 hours. Elias felt a cold satisfaction. It was a start. The next morning, Detective Ellison called. Mr. Dunmore, I need to ask you some questions. About what? The fire at Beck Halloran's shop. Where were you last night between midnight and 4 a.m.? Asleep in my motel room. Can anyone verify that? The desk clerk saw me come in around 10 p.m. I didn't leave until this morning. I'll need to speak with him. Be my guest. There was a pause. Mr. Dunmore, if you're involved in this, Detective, I'm a locksmith, not an arsonist. Besides, why would I burn down the business of someone I barely know? Another pause. We'll be in touch. Elias hung up and smiled. Let her investigate all she wanted. Eddie the electrician knew his trade, but the fire was just the opening move. Elias had bigger plans. That afternoon, he drove to the bank and withdrew another $5,000. Then he called a number Roddy had given him. Computer services, a voice answered. I need to speak with someone about data recovery. What kind of data? The kind that might be embarrassing if it became public. I'll call you back in 10 minutes. The callback came from a different number, a woman's voice this time. This is Sarah. I understand you need some technical assistance. That's right. Can you be more specific? I need to access someone's email accounts and financial records. That's illegal. So is embezzlement. Sarah was quiet for a moment. This is going to cost you. How much? Depends on the complexity. Basic email hack, 500. Financial records, 2,000. Full identity takeover, 5,000. I want everything. Email, bank accounts, credit cards, social media. The works? 10,000 for a complete digital breakdown, half up front. Done. They arranged to meet at a coffee shop downtown. Sarah turned out to be a college-age woman with purple hair and enough piercings to set off a metal detector. You're not what I expected, Elias said. People never expect the hacker to be a 23-year-old art student. It's good cover. She handed him a laptop. I need you to type in everything you know about the targets. Names, birthdays, addresses, places of employment. The more information you give me, the easier this will be. Elias spent 20 minutes filling out forms. When he finished, Sarah reviewed the information. "This is good," she said. "Your wife uses weak passwords and doesn't change them often. Should be easy to crack. How long will it take?" "Give me 48 hours." 2 days later, Sarah called with an update. "I'm in everything," she said. "Email, banking, social media, cloud storage. Your wife has been very busy." "What did you find?" "Evidence of systematic embezzlement dating back 8 months. She's been skimming money from your business account and transferring it to a hidden savings account." "How much?" $37,000. Elias felt his blood pressure spike. $37,000. Almost everything he'd saved over the past 5 years. "There's more," Sarah continued. "Your wife has been corresponding with Beck Halloran about something called Project Windfall. They're planning to file false insurance claims using your client list." "Show me. I'll send you everything. But Elias, these people aren't just stealing from you. They're planning to frame you for it." That evening, Elias sat in his motel room reading through hundreds of emails between his wife and Beck. The scope of their betrayal was breathtaking. They'd been planning the scheme for almost a year. Beck would stage break-ins at businesses on Elias's client list. Marla would fast-track the insurance claims through her company. They'd split the proceeds 50-50. But the worst part was reading how they talked about him. "Elias is so trusting," Marla had written. "He has no idea what's coming." Beck's response: "Good. Makes this easier. By the time he figures it out, we'll be long gone." Another exchange made Elias's hands shake with rage. Marla: "What about Talia? I can't just abandon her." Beck: "She's 16, old enough to choose. Besides, once her father's in prison, she won't have much choice." They were planning to destroy him and take his daughter. Elias picked up his phone and called Talia. "Dad, it's late. Is everything okay? I need you to listen to me very carefully. Tomorrow after school, I want you to pack a bag and meet me at the library. Don't tell your mother where you're going." "Why? What's happening?" "Your mother and Beck are planning something bad." "I don't want you caught in the middle." "What kind of bad?" "The kind that could get me arrested." Talia was quiet for a moment. "Are you going to do something to stop them?" "Yes." "Good. They deserve it." The next afternoon, Talia met Elias at the public library with a backpack full of clothes. "Mom thinks I'm at soccer practice," she said. "I have maybe 2 hours before she starts looking for me." "That's enough time." Elias drove to a storage facility across town and rented a unit under a false name. He moved all his important tools and documents there, along with copies of everything Sarah had uncovered. "Why are we doing this?" Talia asked. "Because when this is over, the police are going to search everything I own. I need to make sure the evidence is safe." "Evidence of what?" "Their crimes, and proof that I was trying to stop them." That night, Elias called Detective Ellison. "I have information about the insurance fraud ring you're investigating. I'm listening. Meet me tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bring a recorder and a warrant for Beck Halloran's financial records." "Mr. Dunmore, if you're trying to deflect suspicion..." "Detective, I'm trying to hand you the biggest insurance fraud case of your career. Are you interested or not?" The next morning, Elias sat across from Detective Ellison in an interview room with Sarah's evidence spread across the table. "This is everything," he said. "Email records, financial transactions, detailed plans for filing false claims." Ellison studied the documents. "How did you obtain this information?" "Does it matter? It's all verifiable through official channels." "It matters if it was obtained illegally." "Then I guess you'll have to decide what's more important, catching criminals or protecting their privacy rights." Ellison continued reading. After 20 minutes, she looked up. "This is comprehensive. But it doesn't explain the fire at Halloran's shop. What about it?" "Come on, Mr. Dunmore. Your wife is cheating with Beck Halloran. You discover they're planning to frame you for fraud. 3 days later, his business burns down. You expect me to believe that's a coincidence? I expect you to investigate based on evidence, not assumptions. The evidence suggests you had motive, means, and opportunity. The evidence also suggests that Beck Halloran and my wife are criminals who deserve whatever they get." Ellison leaned forward. "Did you burn down that building?" Elias looked her in the eye. "I'm a locksmith, detective. I fix things. I don't break them." It wasn't technically a lie. Eddie, the electrician, had broken it. Elias had just paid him to do it. "I'm going to need you to take a polygraph test. Not without my lawyer present." "That's your right. But if I'm innocent, you'll figure that out when you arrest the real criminals." That afternoon, Elias drove to Beck's house. The red pickup was in the driveway along with Marla's Honda. He parked down the street and called the house number. Hello? Beck's voice. This is Elias Dunmore. There was a long pause. What do you want? I want to talk. We have nothing to discuss. I think we do. See, I know about Project Windfall. I know about the embezzlement. I know about everything. Another pause. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. Question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you threatening me? I'm offering you a choice. You can cooperate with the police investigation, or you can keep lying and see what happens. Go to hell. Already there, Beck. Difference is, I'm planning to come back. You're not. Elias hung up and waited. 20 minutes later, Beck's pickup pulled out of the driveway. Elias followed at a distance. Beck drove to a strip mall and parked outside a cell phone store. He went inside and came out 15 minutes later with a small bag. Burner phone. Beck was getting nervous. That evening, Elias called Sarah. I need you to monitor Beck Halloran's communications. All of them. Old accounts and any new ones he might open. That's going to cost extra. How much? $2,000. Done. The next morning, Sarah called with an update. Your boy Beck is panicking. He opened 3 new email accounts and bought 2 burner phones. He's been trying to contact someone named Vincent Reese. Who's Vincent Reese? Private investigator with a shady reputation, specializes in making problems disappear. What kind of problems? The kind that testify in court? Elias felt a chill. Beck was planning to have him killed. Sarah, I need everything you can find on Vincent Reese. Background, client list, methods of operation. This is getting dangerous, Elias. It's been dangerous since the day I found out what they were planning. That afternoon, Elias's car crunched over the gravel leading to Roddy's place. The old man's trailer, perched precariously in a rundown park on the town's forgotten edge, looked even more dilapidated up close. Elias stepped inside, the scent of stale coffee and old motor oil hitting him. He settled into a wobbly kitchen chair that groaned under his weight. Roddy, Elias began, his voice low. We have a problem. Roddy, wiping grease from his hands with an already soiled rag, squinted at him. What kind of problem are we talking about, Elias? Beck, Elias stated flatly, meeting Roddy's gaze. He hired a hitman. The rag dropped from Roddy's hand. His already weathered face went a shade paler, and he sank onto the opposite chair. Jesus Christ, son, Roddy breathed, his voice shaky. What in God's name did you get us into? Elias leaned forward, his hands gripping his knees. I didn't get us into anything, Roddy, but I sure as hell need your help getting me out. Roddy ran a hand over his thinning gray hair, his eyes darting around the small kitchen as if looking for an escape. So, what do you want from me, Elias? What can I possibly do? I want you to disappear for a while, Elias explained, his tone firm. Take that vacation you've been putting off. Go visit your sister down in Florida, Roddy. Just get clear. Roddy frowned, his gaze settling back on Elias. And what about you, Elias? What are you planning to do while I'm sunning myself? A grim set firmed Elias's jaw. I'm going to finish this. Roddy scoffed, a dry, humorless sound. Finish it? How exactly do you plan on doing that, Elias? Elias's eyes glinted with a cold light. By beating them at their own game, Roddy. Roddy stared at Elias, a long, searching look that seemed to take in every line on the younger man's face. You know, Elias, he finally said, his voice quiet and laced with a hint of sorrow. You're not the same man you were 6 months ago, not even close. Elias didn't flinch, his expression unyielding. No, Roddy, he confirmed, his voice devoid of its old warmth. I'm not. Roddy shook his head slowly, a deep sigh escaping him. What happened to that guy, Elias? The one who just wanted to fix a few locks, maybe tinker with an engine, and then head home to his family. Elias's voice was flat, each word a stone dropping into silence. His family destroyed him, Roddy. That night, Elias sat in his motel room planning Beck's destruction. It wasn't enough to expose the fraud or send him to prison. Beck had escalated things by hiring Vincent Reese. Now it was personal. Elias called Eddie the electrician. I need another favor. What kind of favor? The kind that sends a message. I'm listening. Beck Halloran owns a house on Pine Street. I want it to have an electrical problem. When? Tonight, but I want him to be inside when it happens. Eddie was quiet for a moment. That's not a repair job, friend. That's murder. Call it whatever you want. Can you do it? For the right price. Name it. 50,000. Elias had been expecting something like this. I don't have 50,000. Then find another way to solve your problem. Eddie hung up. Elias stared at the phone for a long time. Then he called Sarah. I need a different kind of favor. What now? I want you to transfer money from Beck's accounts to Vincent Reese. Make it look like Beck is paying for a hit on his own wife. That's creative. But why would he want to kill his girlfriend? Because she knows too much about the insurance fraud. And because she's been stealing from him. Has she been stealing from him? She will be once you transfer 50,000 from his business account to her personal savings. Sarah laughed. You're devious. I like that. Can you do it? Give me 2 hours. While Sarah worked her magic, Elias drove to the police station and asked to speak with Detective Ellison again. I have new information about Beck Halloran. What kind of information? The kind that suggests he's planning to kill his girlfriend. Ellison raised an eyebrow. That's a serious accusation. It's about to become a serious crime. Elias handed her a flash drive. Financial records showing payments to Vincent Reese, a known hitman. Beck is planning to eliminate the only witness to his insurance fraud scheme. How did you obtain these records? Anonymous tip. Someone emailed them to me this morning. It wasn't technically a lie. Sarah had emailed them to him. Ellison plugged the flash drive into her computer and studied the files. This shows payments totaling $50,000. Blood money. If this is legitimate, we need to move fast. I'd suggest putting both Beck and my wife under protective surveillance. For their own safety, of course. Ellison looked at him suspiciously. You're awfully calm for someone whose wife might be in danger. Detective, my wife stopped being my concern the day she decided to destroy my life. 2 hours later, Elias was sitting in his van outside Beck's house when 3 police cars arrived. He watched through binoculars as officers arrested Beck on his front lawn. Marla came running out of the house, screaming questions that nobody answered. Phase 1 complete. The next morning, Elias called his lawyer. Beck Halloran was arrested last night on conspiracy charges. I heard. What does that have to do with your case? It means my wife was involved with a man who tried to have her killed. Should make the divorce proceedings more interesting. Elias, what did you do? I protected my family by framing someone for attempted murder, by exposing the truth about what kind of people they really are. That afternoon, Elias got a call from Talia. Dad, Mom's freaking out. She keeps calling Beck's phone, but it goes straight to voicemail. Where are you? At home. She doesn't know I know what's going on. Keep it that way. And Talia, pack another bag. You might need to stay with me for a while. Why? Because your mother is about to discover that her boyfriend was planning to have her killed. She's going to be looking for someone to blame. That evening, Marla showed up at Elias's motel room. She pounded on the door until he opened it. You bastard, she said, pushing past him into the room. You did this. Did what? You know what. Beck is in jail because of you. Beck is in jail because he hired a hitman to kill you. That's ridiculous. Is it? Check your bank account, Marla. See how much money Beck stole from you to pay for the hit. Marla's face went white. She pulled out her phone and logged into her banking app. Elias watched her expression change from anger to confusion to horror. $50,000, she whispered. Gone. Used to pay Vincent Reese for your murder. This doesn't make sense. Beck loves me. Beck loves money. You were just a means to an end. Marla sat down heavily on the motel bed. I don't understand. Let me explain it to you. Beck needed someone inside an insurance company to help him file fraudulent claims. You fit the profile. Lonely housewife, access to the system, willing to betray her husband for attention. That's not what happened, isn't it? When did he first approach you, Marla? At a bar, a restaurant, or did he arrange to meet you through work? Marla's silence was answer enough. He played you, Elias continued, made you think you were special. Meanwhile, he was planning to use you to destroy me, then kill you to eliminate the witness. You're lying. The bank records don't lie. The email communications don't lie. Beck was going to frame me for insurance fraud, kill you, and disappear with the money. Marla started crying. I loved him. No, you didn't. You loved the idea of him, the excitement, the danger, but you never loved the man because you never knew who he really was. What happens now? Now you tell the police everything you know about the insurance fraud scheme. You cooperate fully and maybe you can avoid prison time. And our marriage? Elias looked at his wife, really looked at her. She was still beautiful, but there was something broken in her eyes. something that couldn't be fixed. Our marriage ended the day you decided I wasn't enough for you. Elias, I'm sorry, I know I made mistakes, but mistakes? You embezzled $37,000 from our business. You planned to frame me for crimes I didn't commit. You were willing to let me go to prison to protect your boyfriend. I never wanted you to get hurt, but you were willing to let it happen if it meant getting what you wanted. Marla wiped her eyes. Can we try again? Start over? No. Why not? Because I don't trust you, and I never will again. 3 weeks later, Elias sat in a courtroom listening to his wife plead guilty to embezzlement and conspiracy charges. As part of her plea agreement, she received 2 years probation and was ordered to pay full restitution. Beck got 15 years for conspiracy to commit murder and insurance fraud. Vincent Reese was arrested trying to board a plane to Mexico. He flipped on Beck in exchange for a reduced sentence. Detective Ellison never did figure out who really burned down the auto glass shop. Eddie, the electrician, had covered his tracks too well. Justice served, Roddy said afterward, as they stood outside the courthouse. Not yet, Elias replied. What do you mean? Beck's business partners. They're still out there. Shane Beckett and Maria Santos had managed to avoid arrest by claiming they knew nothing about Beck's illegal activities. But Elias knew better. He'd had Sarah monitor their communications. They were planning to restart the fraud scheme with a new partner. That couldn't be allowed to happen. 2 days later, Shane Beckett's apartment caught fire due to an electrical problem. He wasn't home at the time, but all his records and computers were destroyed. The next week, Maria Santos discovered that someone had reported her to the IRS for tax evasion. The audit that followed revealed years of unreported income and resulted in criminal charges. Elias watched it all unfold from his new apartment across town. He'd sold the house and split the proceeds with Marla as part of the divorce settlement. It was worth it to be rid of her. Talia had chosen to live with him full-time. She was thriving in her new school and had started seeing a counselor to help her deal with her mother's betrayal. Do you think Mom will ever change? She asked one evening over dinner. I don't know, honey. Some people learn from their mistakes. Others just get better at hiding them. Do you miss her? Elias thought about the question. Did he miss the woman he'd married? The one who'd laughed at his jokes and supported his dreams? I miss who she used to be, he said finally. But that person doesn't exist anymore. I'm glad you fought back. Are you? Yeah. Beck and Mom thought they could ruin our lives and get away with it. You showed them they were wrong. I showed them that actions have consequences. Is that why you did it? For justice? Elias considered the question. Justice. Was that what this had been about? Or had it been something darker, something more personal? I did it because they left me no choice. 6 months later, Elias got a call from Detective Ellison. We found Vincent Reese. Where? Bottom of the Allegheny River, 3 bullets to the head, execution style. Any suspects? Working on it. But I thought you should know. Someone left a message with the body. What kind of message? A business card. Dunmore Mobile Locksmith. Elias felt his blood run cold. Detective, I had nothing to do with Vincent Reese's death. I know. Your alibi for that night is solid, but someone wants us to think you were involved. Who would do that? Someone with a grudge, someone who knows about your history with Beck Halloran. Elias thought about Beck's associates, his family, his friends. How many enemies had he made by destroying Beck's life? Detective, I think I need protection. Already on it. We're putting you and your daughter under surveillance until we figure out who's behind this. That night, Elias lay awake thinking about the choices he'd made. He'd set out to protect his family and ended up starting a war. Beck was in prison, but he still had friends on the outside, friends who might be willing to seek revenge. Elias had won the battle, but the war was just beginning. The next morning, he called Roddy. We need to talk. About what? About finishing what we started. Son, I thought we were done with all that. We're done when they're done, and they're not done. What do you want to do? I want to send a message, the kind that ends conversations permanently. Roddy was quiet for a long moment. That's a dangerous road, Elias. More dangerous than waiting for them to come after my daughter? Point taken. What did you have in mind? Beck has a brother in Pittsburgh, Tommy Halloran. Word is he's been asking questions about me. What kind of questions? The kind that end with me and Talia disappearing? You want me to talk to him? I want you to make him understand that some lines shouldn't be crossed. And if he doesn't understand, then we make him disappear instead. 2 weeks later, Tommy Halloran was found in his car in a Walmart parking lot, unconscious but alive. He'd been beaten severely and left with a message tattooed on his forehead. Ask Beck. The message was clear. Leave Elias Dunmore alone or suffer the consequences. It worked. The threats stopped. The surveillance ended. Life returned to something resembling normal. But Elias had changed. The quiet, passive man who'd once been content fixing locks and going home to his family was gone. In his place was someone harder, someone willing to do whatever it took to protect what mattered. Talia noticed the change. "You're different now," she said one evening. "Different how?" "Colder. Like you don't trust anyone anymore." "Should I?" "You should trust me." Elias looked at his daughter, the only person in the world who'd never betrayed him. "I do trust you, honey. You're the only one I trust." "That's sad." "Why?" "Because it means Mom and Beck didn't just steal our money. They stole your ability to believe in people." She was right, but Elias didn't see it as a loss. Trust was a weakness. Love was a weapon people used against you. Better to be alone and safe than vulnerable and destroyed. "Maybe that's not such a bad thing," he said. "Dad, promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you won't let what they did turn you into someone like them." Elias thought about Beck's broken face in the newspaper photos, about Vincent Reese at the bottom of the river, about Tommy Halloran's tattooed forehead. "I promise," he lied. Because the truth was, he'd already become someone like them, someone who solved problems with violence and intimidation, someone who believed that the ends justified the means. The only difference was that his cause was righteous, or so he told himself. 1 year later, Elias stood in the cemetery where Beck Halloran was being buried. The man had died in prison, shivved to the neck in a dispute over cigarettes. Marla was there, along with a handful of Beck's relatives. She looked older, worn down by the consequences of her choices. She saw Elias across the cemetery and walked over. "I didn't expect to see you here," she said. "I wanted to make sure he was really dead." "That's horrible." "Is it? This man tried to destroy our family. He got what he deserved." "He was human, Elias. He made mistakes, but he didn't deserve to die. He made choices. We all did." Marla studied his face. "You're not the man I married." "No, I'm not." "What happened to you?" "You did. You and Beck. You turned me into this." "Into what?" Elias looked at Beck's coffin being lowered into the ground. "Into someone who wins." After the funeral, Elias drove to his new house in the suburbs. It was bigger than the old one, paid for with the insurance money from Beck's business and the restitution from Marla's embezzlement. Talia was in the kitchen doing homework. She looked up when he entered. "How was the funeral?" "Final." "Are you glad he's dead?" Elias considered the question. Was he glad? Or was he just satisfied that justice had been served? "I'm glad it's over." "Is it? Over, I mean?" "Yes, it's over." But even as he said the words, Elias knew they weren't true. It would never be over. The man he'd become, the man who solved problems with violence and lived without trust, that man would always be looking for the next threat, the next betrayal, the next war to fight, because once you cross certain lines, you can never go back, and Elias Dunmore had crossed them all. That night, he sat in his basement workshop, cleaning tools and thinking about the future. Talia would graduate high school soon. She'd go to college, start her own life. And he'd be alone. The thought didn't bother him as much as it should have. Alone meant safe. Alone meant no one could betray him again. His phone rang. Unknown number. "Elias Dunmore?" "Who's asking?" "Someone who appreciates your work. I have a job offer." "I'm not interested." "Hear me out. There's a man in Johnstown who needs to learn some manners. The pay is excellent." "I told you, I'm not interested." "Think about it. You have a very particular set of skills, skills that are in high demand." Elias hung up. But the call got him thinking. He'd destroyed Beck's life with precision and planning. He'd eliminated threats to his family without leaving evidence. He'd turned his enemies' weapons against them. Those were marketable skills. The phone rang again. Same number. This time, Elias listened. "What kind of job?" he asked. "The kind that pays $100,000 for a week's work." "I'll call you back." Elias hung up and stared at his tools. Lockpicks, electronic devices, surveillance equipment, instruments of precision and control. He'd used them to save his family, but they could be used for other purposes. Darker purposes. The phone rang a third time. Elias answered on the first ring. I'm listening, he said. Because sometimes when the world burns everything you love, you have to decide, rebuild from the ashes or become the fire. Elias Dunmore had made his choice. He grabbed a USB drive from his desk drawer, the same one that had started everything, but now it contained different files: bank records, surveillance footage, and detailed plans for making problems disappear. He plugged it into his computer and began typing a message. To whom it may concern, you wanted to see what happens when you destroy a good man's life. Now you know. Good men don't get to win in this world. But I stopped being a good man the day you taught me that mercy is weakness and trust is suicide. You stole my name, so I erased yours. You wanted everything, so I took everything. This was never about justice. It was never about love. It was about taking back control. And now you understand, some people fight back. Some people win. Welcome to the ashes of your own making. He saved the file and ejected the drive. Tomorrow he would mail it to Marla. Let her know that the man she'd destroyed had become something far worse than anything she'd ever imagined. But tonight, he had a phone call to make. About that job in Johnstown, Elias said when the unknown caller picked up. I'm interested. Because the war was over, but the business of war was just beginning, and Elias Dunmore was very good at business.